Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the 59th Annual ACB Conference and Convention, our first ever virtual convention, ACB, A Pathway to the Future. I hope everyone had a wonderful evening last night. I apologize for some of our small technical difficulties, but you know, gang, we're ACB and we work through it. We took the initiative and the tenacity and the flexibility, and we kept working till we got the job done. So I appreciate the wonderful crowd that worked with us and hung in there, our membership, our friends, our guests. We had over 1,000 people listening to us last night, so shouts out to everybody for just an absolutely fantastic job. Just wanted to take a moment and share a few thoughts with you all about today's activities. We're going to have not only this wonderful general session that's going to be videoed today, but we're also going to have an opportunity for our first of our prime time shows each evening throughout the week. And tonight's prime time show will be dedicated to the Audio Description Project and a wonderful industry panel where we will have representatives from 6 or 7 of the largest companies in America that are in the streaming and cable industry to talk about the latest and greatest that's going on with audio description. And that's going to be hosted by our ACB Audio Description Project co-chair, Carl Richardson. Also, as we work through today, we're going to have a combination of live and video presentations. Hopefully it'll feel seamless to you, but again, this is our first opportunity in this area, so if you hear any momentary pauses, please be patient. We will be working through it. We're going to hear from scholarship winners. We're going to hear presentations on our ACB Angels. We're going to hear from some of our wonderful staff members, and then we're going to have some special guests. So we really are excited about today's general session. And I would like to go ahead and officially call the 2020 ACB 59th Annual Conference and Convention back out of recess and back to order on Monday, July 6th, 2020. And now I would like to take this opportunity to present to you Pastor Peter Heide from Baraboo, Wisconsin, home of the Circus Museum. Pastor Peter is a advisory board member for disability for the Evangelical Lutheran Church. Evangelical. Peter, thank you so much, and we look forward to your invocation.
Am I unmuted? Yes. Good morning, ACB. As we continue on our path to the future, that is a path that is unknown. I am reminded that this, in the year of 2020, that the year of perfect vision, who could have seen this a year ago? In my recent readings, I've been reading How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, and he makes the distinction between danger and fear. That when we hear "don't be afraid," it is not to say don't acknowledge danger. And as I thought about how we got here, how many of us would have gotten to Schaumburg in the first place, that many of us might have used services of the FAA. And so I would like to offer a different FAA for us to fly on as we travel this path into the future. Of fear, of adventure, and of advocacy. Ibram Kendi tells us that fear is a choice. Danger is a reality. We need to choose whether or not fear is going to be our response to the danger ahead of us, to those things that would stand in our way of progress. From Helen Keller, the Helen Keller presentation yesterday, we heard that life is either a daring adventure or nothing. And from our President Dan last night, we heard that ACB is about doing advocacy. So fear, advocacy, adventure and advocacy, I think should be our FAA flying rules as we go ahead. Understanding that fear is one of those things that, this is the 4th time that I've been blind, and that fear is one of those things that, fear of being lost or fear of losing things. And over the years, we have found ways to help us overcome those fears and help us into that world of adventure. That we have used canes and dogs. We use our Victor Trex or Be My Eyes, Ira, and in my house, most recently and most often, it's usually honey or cutie pie or Sue. We need to understand that this path of into the future is not something that we do alone, but it is something that we do together. And in the great family of ACB, we are assured that this time is ours. I invite you to join me in a prayer. It's called the Prayer of Good Courage. Lord God, you have called your people to ventures of which we cannot see the endings, by paths as yet unknown, through perils as yet unimagined. Give us good courage to go out, not knowing where we go, but only that you lead us and that your love sustains us. Amen.
Peter, thank you for those very inspirational words. Now we want to hear the Pledge of Allegiance. Today's pledge is going to be led from 2 of our J.P. Morgan Chase Leadership Fellows, Saja Kerala from Honolulu, Hawaii, and Marilyn Ann Schechter from Windsor Mills, Maryland. Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Saja and Meryl. Now we have an opportunity to hear from the woman I affectionately call the Energizer Bunny. This is our presentation of our ACB convention sponsors. And I want to introduce Margarine Beeman, our convention sponsor coordinator from Austin, Texas. Margarine?
Thanks, Mr. President. Good morning to all. Thanks to all our sponsors as follows. Diamond sponsors, $25,000. Microsoft, Virtual ACB Educational Recreational Tours. Google, ACB Conference Banquet. J.P. Morgan Chase, Conference Communication Center. Vanda Pharmaceutical, Convention Announcements. Emerald sponsors, $15,000. Charter Communications, ACB Radio Afternoon Broadcast. Visparo, Virtual Information Technology Help Desk. Comcast, Virtual Information Desk. Ruby sponsors, $10,000. AT&T, ACB Auction. Facebook, ACB Scholarship Mentoring Program. Regal Foundation, ACB Link, Health and Wellness, and ACB Walk. Adobe, Continuing Education Credit. Archon, Conference Registration. Amazon, Audio Description Project. Verizon Media, Performing Arts Showcase. Verizon, Membership Monday and Transportation. Sprint Accessibility and Sprint Vision, T-Mobile, ACB Podcast through December 2020. Onyx sponsor, $5,000. National Industries for the Blind, NIB, Advocacy and Employment. Democracy Live, Incorporated, ACB Governs Policy and Constitution and informational access. ARA, video presentation consulting. Humanware, Convention Connect sponsor. Macular degeneration, ACB walk. And Be My Eyes. Topaz sponsor, 3,000. TrackPhone Wireless Incorporated, official sponsor of all general sessions. Buell Fund, Recreation Zone, and ACB Walk. Pearl sponsors, $1,000. Library Users of America, LUA, Talking Book Narrator. American Logistics, Affiliate President's Seminar. Lainey Feingold and Linda Dadarian, audio description of 4th of July fireworks. Thanks to all of our sponsors. You have helped make our ACB virtual conference and convention a success.
And thank you, Margarine. Isn't it exciting? I mean, at a time when we have a coronavirus, you really learn who your true partners are inside the blind and visually impaired community. Special thanks to all our partners who've stood by us and made this the successful convention that it's going to be because of their kind and generous contributions. Next, we'd like to hear from one of those diamond sponsors with a presentation. This is Google, and their presentation is going to be done by Eve Anderson, Director of Accessibility at Google from Mountain View, California. Welcome, Eve.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eve Anderson. I'm Director of Accessibility at Google. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much to ACB Radio for having me on. I just want to talk for a few minutes about accessibility at Google, some of the things that are going on right now. Accessibility is really core to what we do at Google. In fact, it's part of our mission statement, and it's foundational to our values as a company. Our CEO, Sundar Pichai, said, "Technology's great promise is to give everyone the same power to achieve their goals. As long as there are barriers for some, there's still work to be done." And that's so true. That's why personally I got into the field of accessibility, because I strongly believe that it's important to level the playing field for everyone. I'd like to tell you about a few product updates that we've launched recently at Google. One is on the Android phone. It's a new keyboard for typing Braille on Android, and it launched in April. What's cool about it is that it's directly integrated into Android, so you don't have to connect a separate hardware device. We worked with people who use Braille on a regular basis so that we could develop the feature in a way that feels natural to people. It uses the standard 6-key layout, and each key represents one of 6 Braille dots, and when they're tapped, you can make any letter or symbol. So for example, if you want to type an A, you'd press dot 1, or if you want to type B, you'd press dots 1 and 2 together. So this keyboard can be used anywhere that you would normally type on your phone, and it allows you to delete letters and words, add lines, and submit text. I hope that you like it. We also, a few months ago, launched voice guidance in Google Maps. This launched in October, and it was created by a blind Google employee named Wakana Sugiyama, who works in our Tokyo office, along with some of her colleagues. What it does is it gives more detailed voice guidance and new types of verbal announcements for walking trips when you're using Google Maps. It proactively lets you know that you're on the correct route, the distance until your next turn, and the direction that you're walking in. As you approach a large intersection, it can even give you a heads up to cross with caution. Wakana said that it helps her to navigate the streets of Tokyo with more comfort and confidence, and it can help her explore new and unfamiliar places that she might not feel comfortable exploring otherwise. Another thing we launched also in October is Get Image Descriptions from Google. And this is a feature in Google Chrome that you can use if you decide to opt into it. For those of you who use screen readers, you know that the screen reader relies on whoever developed the web page to provide a description of the image. Otherwise, it reads something that's not very useful. Depending on the screen reader, it could be something like image or unlabeled graphic or just reading the file name, which sometimes doesn't make any sense. So what this does is it uses computer vision to try to identify objects and describe them. So for example, one description could be, appears to be person playing guitar on the sofa. So of course it's better if the person who developed the web page adds the image description. They know the context, they know why they included that image in the first place. That's why we've created a lot of automated testing tools to alert developers to that issue if they've forgotten to include labels for their images. But if they don't, this is a backup plan that you can use. One of our goals while testing it was to make sure that the images are not just correct, they're actually useful to people. So we hope that you find it to be useful. In the days of coronavirus that we're all experiencing right now, many of us are working from home, are being educated from home. And so we've also, in addition to creating these new features, we've been working on new content to help both learners and educators think of ideas for how to use technology to make the learning experience more accessible. To that end, we've written 2 posts on the Google blog to help. One is called Chromebook Accessibility Tools for Distance Learning, and the other one is called Accessibility Ideas for Distance Learning During COVID-19. I thought that it could also be useful to give you a little bit of insight into some of the processes that we put into place at Google in addition to the product updates, because it's really these processes that keep accessibility going. You don't want to create something that's accessible and then have it backtrack. That's just really frustrating and it doesn't work well for anybody. We all know that it's important to incorporate accessibility from the beginning of the product development lifecycle. And we also know that accessibility is the job of everyone. We do have hundreds of people at Google whose full-time jobs are to work on accessibility, but we also know that it just has to be incorporated into everybody's job so that people are building the right thing from the beginning. So to that end, some of the things that we've done process-wise at the company, one of those is education. We make sure that all of the new hires who work in engineering and product management and user experience design or testing, that they go through accessibility training during their first 2 weeks on the job. And we have over a dozen other courses that people working on products at Google can take. Some of this we've released externally as well. For example, we have a course called Web Accessibility by Google, and we also have pretty extensive documentation on how to do accessible Android development. Accessibility is something that we need to have really broad awareness across the company. And while we have a constant drumbeat of internal announcements and activities, there's one really special week each year that we call Accessibility Week, where we have a lot of events across the world. And this last year, over 12,000 Google employees participated in events in 44 different offices, and our CEO was able to also kick off the week. So that was just really exciting to see an increasing level of participation every single year. We're also working on incorporating accessibility into standards. For example, the material design standard is one that is used by designers around the world to develop the look and feel and interaction patterns of web and mobile applications. And we have incorporated accessibility into that extensively throughout the entire design language. We're also really happy to be participating in various groups within W3C to further accessibility standards. We work on tools and frameworks that are used by both Google employees and by developers around the world. And the goal is to incorporate accessibility so that it becomes something natural for developers to do. So for example, we have Android testing tools and libraries that we've developed. We have a standalone app called Accessibility Scanner, which is available on Android. And that can be used by anyone who wants to test an app. You don't have to be an engineer to use it. We also have released testing libraries on iOS. And of course, accessibility checks built into Chrome. We have partnerships with many different organizations. ACB is a really important partner for us. We also really appreciate being able to work with the community. We have so many people who come in or remotely participate in user research, or are trusted testers who get early access to Google products and have provided so much really helpful feedback. We're grateful, and we've learned so much and incorporated so much of what people have told us. We participate in many different conferences. 2020 is kind of a strange year, but last year, over 300 Google employees attended accessibility-focused conferences. We also have a disability support team that can provide support on any Google product to people with disabilities. It's a dedicated team that is focused on helping people with disabilities, and it's completely free. You can get help by email, by chat, by Be My Eyes is one of the most popular methods of getting support. And as soon as this coronavirus pandemic lets everybody get back to work, we'll be able to return to providing phone support. I'd also like to tell you a little bit about what we do to make Google a great place to work for people with disabilities. We believe that all employees deserve a level playing field. And from a practical standpoint, we know that having a diverse workforce leads to better products. For employees, we have a team dedicated to making sure that the internal software that we use to do our work is accessible. Of course, in addition to our own software, we procure third-party tools like JAWS or like Dragon Naturally Speaking for people. We have an accessibility service team that helps people select or configure software. In terms of office space, we have people who work on standards and on improving configurations to help our employees with disabilities. And we have people like sign language interpreters and personal assistants who help employees who need that. One of the things I'm proud of is that even though we're mostly working from home right now during this time of coronavirus, the people who provide these services for our Google employees are still doing so, just remotely. We also want to make sure that job candidates have a great experience, and we have a team called the Candidate Accommodations team that helps make sure that interviews are done in an accessible way, and that if a candidate needs a different way of having the interview done, then we can accommodate that for them. And we've done that many, many times. We have an internal employee resource group called Disability Alliance that I'm part of, with over 2,000 members across the company. And this is a great forum for people to get support and to learn from each other. Well, I think I'm about out of time. So again, I just want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk with you. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit google.com/accessibility, and you can also get in touch with us there. Also, if you do want to be part of this user research, then we have a special link for you, which is g.co/user-research/join20. But if it's hard to remember that, then you can always just visit google.com/accessibility and you'll find it through the website. Thank you so much and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Eve. What a wonderful presentation and what a tremendous sponsor Google has been for all of our activities here at the convention for many, many years. And I want to give a special shout out to Google, who has gone that extra mile and sponsors each year for us a project between the American Council of the Blind, the National Park Service, and the University of Hawaii. The Unity project has now received over $200,000 in funding from Google over the past 4 years. And with that, we have been able to audio describe over 100 visitors brochures across this wonderful country of ours. The mission still has a long way to go, but we could never do it without a great partner like Google. So thank you, Eve. Next, we are going to hear from John Huffman, our Constitution and Bylaws Chair, about our unique situation to hold a business meeting during this year's virtual convention. So thank you, John.
You listened to the March 30th ACB board meeting or have been following other sources, you're aware that ACB canceled this year's conference and convention and decided to hold a virtual event. The 2020 conference and convention had been scheduled to be held in Schaumburg, Illinois, and we hope to hold a conference there in the near future. As COVID-19 is still very much with us, opting for a virtual event seemed to be the only way to hold an event this year. Since there will not be an actual conference and convention, there will be none of the usual business such as constitution and bylaw amendments, election of candidates for office, and there is a revised procedure for the board to address resolutions of an urgent nature. A lot of life seems to be improvised in our current situation, but I feel that ACB will be able to continue its vital work of advocating for our members and for the entire blind, low vision community which we serve.
Thank you, John, and thank you for clarifying our Constitution and bylaws and how it works or interfaces with this year's virtual convention. John mentioned one thing that I want to share with you, and that was the fact that we have worked very hard through our Advocacy Steering Committee and our Advocacy Director our ACB Director of Advocacy and Governmental Affairs, Clark Rackful, to put a process in place where we can still present resolutions to this convention. And so if you have a resolution that you wish to bring forth to our ACB Board of Directors, please contact Clark Rackful, or you can write your resolution to advocacy@acb.org or get in contact with Gabe Griffith or Jill Noble and make them aware of your resolution. We will be accepting resolutions through the close of the convention on July 10th, Friday, July 10th. These resolutions will be reviewed by the Resolutions Committee for a pass or do not pass recommendation, and then forwarded on to our ACB staff for further clarification and conversation, and then will be presented to our ACB Board of Directors on August 27th at our telephonic board meeting for a pass or do not pass vote, as well as a prioritization of this year's 2020 resolutions. So thank you to John. Also want to indicate to everybody that we had 5 ACB Board of Directors positions and 3 Board of Publications positions that were up for election this year. All 8 of those wonderful, outstanding leaders have agreed to continue on in their terms until we have a chance to meet face-to-face in Phoenix, Arizona in 2021. So thank you to our leaders, and John, thank you for that very informative report. Next, it's time to celebrate our ACB Angels. And for today's tribute, I would like to introduce Tony Stevens to introduce today's presenter. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone in the live audience attending this, and as well to everybody listening through the streams. My name is Tony Stevens, the Director of Development with the American Council of the Blind, and I'm very fortunate to run one of our programs that does a significant amount of recognition for former past members of ACB. You know, last night during President Spoon's report, he talked a lot about, you know, a sense of everything that's been going on the past 3 or 4 months and all the work that so many of our volunteers are doing.
Lost a great advocate.
So please welcome David Trott. He's going to share a little bit about one of those people that passed away last year, one of our giants, John Granger.
We lost Johnny Granger 3 years old. And for those of you associated with the National Industries for the Blind and who were around the American Council of the Blind in the 80s and early 90s, this name is not a stranger to you. Johnny served the blindness community from late in the 1940s, where he attended the Alabama School for the Blind. Johnny immediately became an advocate for blind people, and he did a lot of great work, and I'm going to share some of that with you today. In the late 1950s, the Alabama Industries for the Blind was close to failing. They hired a young man to come in and take over and run that industries named John Granger. John brought that industries up to not only serving and employing more and more blind people, but what he also did is he made it successful. He left there and went to a little town in Mississippi called Hazelhurst, where he took an industries there and did the same thing all the way up into the 90s. But he didn't just do the work with the industries. He worked with the National Industries for the Blind. He came up with the brand Royal Made, which is a national brand now. And that brand, to be called Royal Made, had to have a certain quality. Johnny was an excellent businessman, but he was a tight businessman. He wanted you to do your job and do it right. Quality was of the utmost importance to Johnny. But Johnny was not just a businessman. He was an advocate for blind people. He was always looking for new opportunities for the blind. He worked extremely well with vocational rehabilitation services, where he got out and he spoke. Johnny was an excellent speaker. And he would talk to different groups and tell them things that blind people could do that in this time and age were unknown to a lot of people. As we sit around today, we think nothing about what blind people can do because we know they're out doing it. But at that time, it was a struggle for blind people, and Johnny was in the front of this struggle. Johnny was a leader without taking a leadership role. Johnny never sought to be president. He never sought this honor or that honor, although he received many honors over his lifetime. He did some great work for the ACBES, that's our Enterprise and Services Program, back at a time that it was new. He helped bring that on board. He served on the ACBES board for many years. He was a colleague with Leroy Saunders, and they worked well together. John had friends all over the place, and his friends became his family. Although he had a big family, and his children, even though they're not blind, carry on John's beliefs. He brought on his son-in-law, Billy Sparkman, who ran the Alabama Industries for the Blind for many years. So even though John had retired, his work ethic survived through his son-in-law. And now through his son, Roy, who went to work here. He worked in Mississippi, and now he works here in Alabama. And this legacy cannot be duplicated. It is an amazing amount of life of work that John Granger had. But not only was he a good worker and a good advocate, Johnny was a good friend and family member. And I know the guys around here would really tar and feather me and want to ride me out on a rail if I didn't tell you about the bad boys. Now, the bad boys sounds kind of, you know, these guys are going to be in trouble type thing, but they weren't. The youngest bad boy was in his late 40s. So you can get an idea of what they were. And they went to breakfast every Wednesday morning. They were involved in local politics. They'd always talk about the local politics and blindness, because Johnny would go to an extreme level of poking and prodding and having fun with people. But always, anytime he did anything, the interest of the blind was in his makeup. So you always knew it was there. The one thing that I can say about Johnny was a big influence on my life. Back in the early 80s, I was in the vending program, and he tried to recruit me to come to work for him. And I would have loved to work for him, but I didn't want to move, and I had a career of my own. But Johnny's influence on me kept me working for the blindness community locally and later on nationally. And when it got to the point in his life that he couldn't go to the national convention, Rhonda and I couldn't be home but a few days before Johnny called and say, how is Billie Jean, or how is Bonnie, or how is this one that he knew, how is Otis? You know, he knew people everywhere. It always astonished me the number of people that John knew. But John really loved to entertain, and he loved to get out and have fun. One of the funnest part of my life is watching his daughters. John would set these breakfasts up somewhere, like at a Cracker Barrel or something. And one of his daughters would say, well, how are you going to get all these blind people there? He'd say, well, y'all are not doing anything this weekend, so we'll have you take them. So they would immediately, if they had something on their calendar, work to get it changed, because they all really loved their dad, and they worked hard to make sure that his quality of life after his retirement, when he was in his 80s, never changed. Up until about the last year of his life, John was out going and doing and always having a good time. I will share one more little funny story. Johnny loved a good joke. It could be on him or on one of his friends. We sat down at a place in Mississippi one Thursday night to have dinner. Some of us had come in on a trip he arranged. And they came out and started singing Happy Birthday to Ruby. Well, Ruby was his mother, and we had a friend named Ruby that was with us. And so the two Rubies looked at one another and said, it's not my birthday, it's not my birthday. But what he had done, he had them sing Happy Birthday to both of them, and neither one of them had a birthday that day. That was the kind of pranks and fun that Johnny had, and people loved it. But the best thing that Johnny did for all of us is he left a legacy of avocation, a good work ethic, and love for family and friends. And I appreciate the opportunity for you letting me share a few of these stories with you today, because I want you to remember the John Granger I knew, the one who loved, the one who gave, and the one who will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for those wonderful comments and the tribute to Johnny Granger. Next, we want to add to the program today. We had a little snafu last night in roll call, and we missed one of our most important and exciting affiliates, and that's Ivy. And so we wanted to make sure that you got to hear from the wonderful folks with our Ivy affiliate. So now, without further ado, I'd like to do one last roll call shout out from our Ivy affiliate.
Hi, I'm Penny Reeder.
I guess we had a technical issue again with Ivy. We will we will most certainly hear from Ivy. So stay tuned after our Angels presentation tomorrow. And we're going to, Ivy is going to be the most well-known affiliate before this convention's over, because we are going to keep working until we get it right. And apologies out there to artists and to team, and we will keep working at it. So thank you all so much. Next, we are going to turn today's gavel over to our first Vice President and Officer of the Day, Mark Reichert from Arlington, Virginia. Mark, welcome to the virtual ACB convention, A Pathway to the Future, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and it's such a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you all, even though I don't get to hug you all or shake hands with you all or breathe the same air with all of you. What strange days, who knew? If anybody would have said to us, a year ago at the bar, this is the year that you're going to have, and here are the things you're going to experience, I would tell you to have another drink, or maybe 2 or 3 or 4. As it is, it only being 10:45 on the East Coast, I'm drinking iced tea. And I hope you've got something in hand, whether it's a nice drink handy or something to nibble on. The cool thing about doing this stuff remotely is that unlike those of us who have to do these presentations, nobody can see you. So God knows what you're doing. Whatever you do, don't let us know everything that you're doing. But it's such a pleasure to have you all join us, especially through our ACB radio network and on and on. A number of you know that I've been serving on an interim basis with the professional association in the blindness field called AER, and we talked about in AER the challenges of doing a conference like this remotely. How in the world do you do a conference like this? And ultimately, AER opted not to do what ACB is doing, which is just a truly, I think, historic thing. And I get to be a little footnote in ACB's work right now today. But it's a tremendous thing. And I'm not sure that anybody knew, or maybe they did years ago when ACB radio and that whole structure was put in place, that someday that foundation would be built upon to be able to achieve something like this in strange days where folks who are blind or visually impaired are kind of isolated anyway. I think we know that. And the researcher types would back that up with all kinds of brainy research. But fantastic that ACB has had the forethought and the vision, which ACB has always had, being people of vision, to put that foundation in place. So here we are. One other word of personal privilege from me, and I know my colleagues on the ACB board are aware of this. Some of you who are friends of mine know this has been a tough year for me. And I won't belabor the point, but I'll just say, and I think I said this on a podcast that I did, some weeks ago with Clark Rockwell and Claire Stanley, which was a lot of fun, that when life throws you some curveballs, wow, you really know who your friends are. When you might be more of a liability than an asset, or maybe you let people down, you know who your friends are. When those kind of times happen. So I don't want to be melodramatic about it, and life is kind of turning a number of corners for me, which is great. But most importantly, we're here to turn a historic corner today, which is to continue on with this effort of doing our virtual conference. And so Dan, thanks so much for introducing me. And I shall now introduce our next presenter, who is Cindy Hollis, who is our Membership Services Coordinator. And Cindy, you are going to talk to us about member and affiliate relationships. And I know you're excited to do that for a number of minutes, but I have a note written to myself that I'm supposed to let people know that as you do your presentation, if people come up with bright ideas or questions, especially for you, I think we're supposed to ask people to send their questions into questions@acb.org. Questions, I think that's plural. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Questions@acb.org. I don't know how many focus groups we had to come up with that email address for questions, but in any case, if you out there have questions for Cindy as she presents, go ahead and submit them to questions@acb.org. And then Cindy, when you're done, we'll, I'm sure, have some real chestnuts for you to jump on. But Cindy, over to you.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be able to have this opportunity to present to all of you our ACB membership, friends, really our ACB community. When I started with ACB a year ago, I had no idea where we would be today, and yet here we are. In the beginning, I worked really hard to reach out to members and especially leadership from all of our affiliates. I spoke with many presidents, learned of their leadership and some of their structure in their state and special interest affiliates. And then I put together a survey and asked a lot of questions around membership and leadership, and received a good response back. About 28% of those that were surveyed responded back. And then out of that, I had also invited them if anyone would like to have a one-on-one with me, so we could just talk about their specific situations in their affiliates. And at that time, I ended up speaking with over 100 of our leaders throughout our 68 or so affiliates. They were great conversations, and throughout them, I shared ideas of ways that they could move forward with whatever it was that they were facing, their challenges and or their desire to grow their membership. And as well, I have spoken to membership committees, conventions. Fortunately, I was able to, fortunately, I was able to attend in person my last convention, which was in Hawaii. So, okay, the pandemic hit, and that was a bummer, and I've missed some, but I did get to go to Hawaii, and aloha to all of my HAB friends and how welcome they made me, and just really enjoyed that time. I have been able to speak with the conventions of Florida and California virtually, and that was a joy for me as well. All this to say that throughout all of the opportunities I've had speaking with chapters, committees, and conventions, I have talked about my 3 E's: embrace, engage, empower. And I still do believe that these are like the code to unlocking membership growth. I believe that with all of my heart. But I added a 4th E in, and that was effort. So embrace, engage, empower are tools that I extend to you to put into your toolbox and to keep in mind. And I'll expand on them a bit. But if we don't put the work behind them, they are just tools sitting in our toolbox. A picture does not get hung on the wall with a hammer staying in the toolbox. We need to be able to do the work. So let's talk a little bit about embrace. Embrace is making people feel welcome at your meetings, and hopefully even at this convention. I hope you're getting the feel of that embrace that we as an organization are extending to you. In your meetings, I hope that you have enacted some sort of welcoming committee to make sure that no one sits alone and that everyone feels included. And you don't want to come into a room as someone who's blind, not knowing anyone, find a seat and have no one talk to you because they don't even know you're there. So we need to make sure that we are engaging or embracing people right from the start. It also leads to the engagement piece, and engage is probably one of our biggest E's ever because it is how we connect with people. Engaging is how we learn about them, we find out their interests, and we get them connected to our organization. Engagement is what really has spurred our community, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. And then empower. Empower is giving people a job and the tools to do that job. It's giving them wings to fly, but being there in the background to ensure that they are successful. So we need to engage our members, but we also need to empower them to take on new activities, new leadership roles, whatever they're ready for. And sometimes people are ready before we acknowledge them to be ready, and sometimes people are ready and they don't know it. So, you know, there has to be some ability to have the foresight to see and or even give a chance to people that maybe aren't the strong voices in your chapter or your affiliate. And knowledge is power, so we need to be really we need to be open to our membership. And I will say that I am so proud of the way our leadership in ACB is open with all of you, all of us, and sharing the board meetings on ACB radio, giving people an opportunity to really listen in to the activities, the inner workings of our organization. So I want to jump into community calls and how all of that happened and why it's so important and really how it is spurring embrace, engage, empower. In the middle of March, we were all thrown into this pandemic and stay-at-home orders were enacted, and I started working from home, and instantly I asked Eric if it'd be okay if I did a couple of community calls via Zoom to just talk with our leaders in our affiliates and make sure everybody had a plan in place in staying connected with their membership. So we did 2 of those. It was on a Tuesday and Thursday. And they went really, really well. And we talked about, you know, using whatever means you had to be able to stay connected with your membership. And really prior to this, I had spoken with many leaders about, you know, some sort of a calling campaign, reaching out to your members, making sure that they knew that you cared about them. I probably could go into some C's here, right, with caring and community and connecting, but anyway, I'll stick with my E's right now. But I really do believe that connection is so important. And so we had such a great turnout with those 2 calls. And then Dan and I had a talk on that Friday, and he was really impressed with how well those 2 calls had come up. And so I reached out to the leadership list and said, hey, if you have any ideas for some calls, you know, let me know about them and I'll promote them. So anyway, those first couple of weeks, we had 13 calls in the month of March, just in a little over 2 weeks. And then in April, we had 88 calls. And we started rolling them into from community calls to community events, because they weren't just calls. They weren't just calls us chatting. They were also presentations about specific topics. They were coffee socials, and there was some training going on, and it was just evolving into this amazing platform. And then in May, we went from 88 in April to 160 events. And the community channel was born. And the community channel now hosts many of our community events. Prior to that, they had been on live event, which was great. And so if you will notice, none of this could have really evolved like it did without the support from ACB Radio and our leadership. And it's just been a team effort. And in June, we had 223 meetings. And when I did some statistics, I figured out that we've held about 484 community events in all so far, not counting convention. And we've had over 19,000 attendees at those community events. What's also transpired is we've had several people step up wanting to help. So we've had people from the community help to host the calls, do the Zoom work in the background. We've had many of our community members step up wanting to facilitate calls, from social events to teaching gaming or technology of sorts, to leading presentations around veterans or cooking. We've had some sports and other things like there's an app for that, and playing a game with a live audience in webinar. So we've been trying new things, and I know we have a lot more new things coming along, because it's you, our community, that are coming up with ideas and bringing them to me, and not only saying, let's do this, but saying, I'll do this. And so we have new people stepping up to the plate, which is so important to keep this going. And then what happened, the community activities and social events started getting to a place where it was same people coming to many of them, and they wanted to get to know each other more outside of the calls. And so they started saying, how can we get to know one another? How can these connections continue? So it just happened that things started falling into place, and I approached Eric, and he said yes, and the ACB community Facebook group was born 3 weeks ago. In those first 5 days, we grew to 500 people. I was going to look at the number before I started this morning, but didn't. But I know as of last night, we were at 735. It's an amazing place to be. People are sharing with one another, asking questions. People are answering those questions. They are around the convention and around blindness issues. They're concerns, and they're where people need support. But then there's also, people wanting to share ideas and tips and tricks. And it is an amazing community. And I could not be prouder of the people that are coming forward in that community. So you can find the convention community by going to Facebook and looking up ACB community. I promise you'll find that Facebook group. Join us. We would love to have you. And our ACB community events, you can subscribe to our email list, where I send an email out each morning, including throughout convention. And if you've never been to one of our community calls, we're going to do one tonight. And for the next 5 nights, so through Friday night, we're calling it a community convention nightcap. And we're going to get together and have everybody share highlights from their convention each night. So if you've never been on one of our community calls, I hope you'll join us and check us out and contribute. So you can join our email list by sending a blank email to acb-events-events-subscribe@acblists with an S at the end.org. And if you have trouble, always feel free to email me with your ideas about future community events, or if you need help to join the community list, or anything else pertaining to membership. So if you have an idea about or concern, a challenge that you're facing in your chapter or your state or special interest affiliate, please reach out to me at community@acb.org. And I would love to take you up on your offer of wanting to help in our community events, or I would love to help you. What I want to say, and on a very serious note about reaching out to me, I want you to know that when you come to me as a leader wanting assistance, you are coming to a judge-free zone. I am not here to judge you. I am here to support you. ACB hired me to help build our membership. And in doing that, that means building relationships with our members and with the leadership of our affiliates. And I want to be that to you. So if you and I have not spoken yet, reach out to me. Drop me an email. And when I reach out to you, I hope that you'll want to engage with me, because it really is my heart's desire to do that with you. I have a few minutes before we check to see if there's any questions. I want to tell you a couple of other little things I've done. We've offered peer-to-peer support through president's calls, and really those started the week before our community event started. So I had no idea that it would turn out like this, but on Wednesdays, we have a hump day happy hour for our presidents of all of our affiliates. And we average about 15 people on that call. And each week, a different president facilitates the discussion, and they talk about all kinds of different things. But it's a safe place for presidents to come and share some of the challenges or ideas that they have with one another. So if you are a president of a state or special interest affiliate, so this is not at the chapter level, this is at the state or special interest affiliate level, you receive an email from me each week reminding you about Hump Day Happy Hour. If you've not yet joined us, I hope you will, because it takes all of you to make it work. And then I wanted to expand a little bit on about a couple of things that we've been doing to try and engage new people in the organization. One, we have connected with Be My Eyes and are on their app for special help. And I am one of the 4 people that answer those calls Monday through Friday, noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. And you never know who you'll get if you call us, but we are there to just lend support. So if you need resources, whatever you might have, we do not offer sighted support like their Be My Eyes agents do, but we do offer other support. So check us out on the Be My Eyes app. And then we want, of course, you to join us as a member of ACB. It's only $10 a year to become a member at large. That's pretty inexpensive when you think about it. It's not even $1 a month. You can also join one of our state or special interest affiliates at that level or at their chapter level. No matter how you decide to join us, we would love to welcome you into the ACB family. But if you're not quite ready to join ACB as a member, you can become a friend of ACB. And that's something that we started back in late March, early April. And a friend of ACB receives our Braille form and e-form electronically. You receive our weekly updates that are sent out from ACB. And you have the opportunity to learn about ACB maybe at a new level that you wouldn't have if you had not joined as a friend prior to becoming a member. So again, we want to encourage you to be a member, of course, but if that's not quite in the cards for you right now, if it's not comfortable, wherever you're at, you can become a friend of ACB, and we would love that to happen, and we'll reach out to you and see if maybe we can answer questions and help you become more interested and engaged in desirous in becoming a member of ACB. So I hope that I'll hear from many of you on our call tonight. We have a community convention a connection, I think it's called a convention check-in at 6 p.m. Eastern on the program. We have a nightcap tonight that is in the email I sent out today. And so, and we'll be doing that all week. And more importantly, we'll be back on Saturday with some more community events. And so if you would like to be part of that, I hope you'll join our email list, or I hope you'll reach out if you want to actually facilitate a call. We would love to have you. I am just beyond honored. I joined this organization 34 years ago. I was a youngster then. I was 23 and pregnant with my first daughter. So giving my age away, but I want you to know why I am so passionate about this organization. I helped start a chapter in the state of Washington. I served as president of our state affiliate 4 different times, twice back to back. And I have served as a special interest affiliate for what is now ACB Families. I've served on the Board of Publications and served on and chaired committees at the ACB level. So when I was hired to serve as staff of ACB, I already knew about ACB because I've been living and breathing it for the 33 years prior to becoming staff. I am passionate about who we are, what we do, and couldn't be more proud about what we're doing now here at this convention. So before I sign off, I guess I'll ask, are there any questions?
So Janet, this is Mark. How many questions do we have in the queue at this point for Cindy?
Leaving menus, Zoom meeting, audio now.
Well, I have a question from Greg Wansnyder in Wisconsin, and he's a first-time convention attendee, and he's never attended, and he's not a member yet. And I think you answered part of his question because he asked about, is it better to be a member of a state affiliate or of ACB? And you kind of talked about you can do it either way. But he also wanted to know if it was possible to join the community calls if you weren't a member.
Oh, I am so glad you asked those questions, Greg. So first, I'm going to answer the community call one. Our community events are for everyone. So it's a great way for you as a member to engage with other members, but for all of us to engage with people that are checking us out, wanting to learn about us, and for you to learn about us. So yes, yes, yes. We want everybody and anybody to join our community events. We'd love to have you. I want to explain a little bit about our model of membership, because I do think it gets a little confusing. And so it is up to you on how you decide to join the organization. But I want you to think about ACB at 3 different levels. ACB, the organization. We are big and mighty, and we are here at this convention in full force with all of our affiliates and all of our chapters and all of our members at large and all of our friends of ACB. And then there are our state and special interest affiliates. Special interest affiliates are national in scope, and they cover a wide variety of interest levels. But they are organizations on their own, and yet they are affiliated with ACB. And so if you join a special interest affiliate, you are a member of ACB as well. And then there are our state affiliates. We have the majority of our states are covered. We have a few that we still need to reach out to, but when you are a member of a state affiliate, you are a member of ACB because they are affiliated with ACB. Under those state and special interest affiliates, they often have chapters. And so you could join at the chapter level, and you then become a member of that state or special interest affiliate. And guess what? You become a member of ACB. So it really depends on what you are looking for. If you want to get involved on the local level, I would suggest you reach out and find out if there is a chapter in your area. However, we have learned that you can become equally involved and connected through Zoom calls as we've been doing. So really, it is up to you. I just want to make sure wherever you join, you feel that connection. And I promise you, if you join as a member at large of ACB, we are going to be doing some new things over the next several months to connect you specially. But that does not take away from our special interest affiliates or our state affiliates and their chapters. So please find what works for you. And no matter what, we just want you to join.
Thanks so much, Cindy. So Janet, do you know how many questions we have in the queue?
No, that was, I have a question myself that I'm going to ask.
You do? Well, go ahead.
I do. Now, Cindy, I've been a little busy and haven't had time to go on your community calls.
Yep.
And, but I know that people have been asking this question, so I'm going to ask it on behalf of everyone else. So if I've never been on a call, how do I get on these calls? What ways do I have of doing that?
Thank you. So we send out through a weekly schedule to all of our members and friends, as well as on the leadership list, and then also on the community email list that I put together. We send out all of the Zoom information, so you can click on the link, use your app. You can use a one-tap mobile number, which has all of the numbers included from your smartphone. You can call in and use the ID and password. So you can use all of those different platforms to join us. And it's really easiest if you can be on our email list and get that information daily. So each day I send out just that day's calls, and it's a lot easier and not so overwhelming to people. And I always add extra special stuff in those calls as well. So I might add information about the convention, or a link to recipes, or whatever it might be that have been going on in the community. So I know, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, and Cindy, the last thing I just got was somebody saying, could you please repeat that address to subscribe to the email?
I sure will. So the email address is acb-community-events@acblists.org. And you'll be instantly subscribed when you do that, and you'll start receiving my emails tomorrow morning. And just thank you so much, Dan, for the opportunity to speak to everybody. I just wish we were in person to give you each a hug. I am a hugger, but boy, in Arizona, are we going to have fun? I'm going to just be snuggling my way from one meeting to another, I think. Yes.
So this is Mark, but you've got one more question for me before you go.
Okay.
So one of the calls that happened this year, which I wasn't able to attend, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to, had to do with, frankly, creating a safe space for people to talk about their stresses and their anxieties and things that were going on with them. And I think this even happened before all the COVID stuff really started to hit. It might have been during that time, but if I, whoever I am, have some wild and crazy idea, no matter how unpopular it might be, or sensitive it might be for a topic for conversation, what's the best way for me to bring that idea forward?
So let me tell you, Jessie Rail has been holding some calls on Tuesdays typically, and I know she's got one coming up the Tuesday after convention around mental health. We've had also some on meditation, and but there is no idea that's not a good idea. I always tell people, if you create it, they will come. So I promise you, we have people coming to everything because our community wants to be engaged. That's what we've learned. So send me an email at community@acb.org. That's community@acb.org. And together we are going to build the greatest ACB community we could never even imagine. I know it. Can't wait to see you all next year. Enjoy the rest of your convention. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cindy. And I'm sure we've got folks who are standing up from their chairs and couches, especially those really, those tough couches that are hard to get out of, right? You try to struggle, you push up against that armrest, you can't seem to quite get up. but I think you're getting a huge standing ovation from across the country, and who knows, from around the world. So Cindy, thanks so much for your commitment to this organization. And I think, a number of us are on video right now, whether we want to be or not. And those of us who are just listening to you can hear the passion in your voice and the commitment to our organization. So God bless you. Thank you so much for your commitment to ACB. And we couldn't be luckier than to have someone who has that kind of commitment to be on our staff. So thank you so much. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the next item on our agenda, which has to do with scholarships. And it is my pleasure to introduce Denise Cawley, who, in addition to being our ACB secretary, is also our scholarship committee co-chair, who will set up for us a number of scholarship presentations. Denise, take it away.
Good morning, ACB. I am Denise Cawley from Lacey, Washington, and I am the ACB Scholarship Co-Chair. And I'd like to begin my remarks this morning by introducing my co-chair, Rebecca Bridges from Arlington, Virginia. Rebecca has been really instrumental in dealing with all of the changes we've been making to moving everything online. So she's been working really closely with Nancy Becker to do that. This year, there have been a lot of changes to the scholarship process. Last year, the ability for scholarship applicants to apply online was introduced. And this year, we introduced the ability for the review, scoring, and selection process that is conducted by the scholarship committee members to be done online. And to more closely align subcommittees and the subcommittee names with the applicants' fields of study, we renamed our subcommittees. And so I want to introduce those to you and the members of my scholarship committee. The Specialized Studies and States Subcommittee was chaired by myself this year. And joining me is Susan Claire Glass from Saratoga, California, and Linda Perrell from San Francisco, California. The new Social Work, Rehabilitation, and Teaching Subcommittee was ably chaired by Don Coors from Indianapolis, Indiana, and with him are Valerie Stannard from Kansas City, Missouri, and Sheila Young from Orlando, Florida. The new Business and Accounting Subcommittee is chaired by Vicki Prayan from Columbus, Ohio, and her committee members were Sarah Conrad from Madison, Wisconsin, and a brand new committee member this year, Lynn Powers from Indianapolis, Indiana. And finally, our Engineering, Science, and Technology Subcommittee was chaired by Kathy Schmidt-Whitaker and her committee members from Diamond Bar, California. And her committee members were Mike Gravitt from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Gilly Presley from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At the request of and in negotiation with the American Foundation for the Blind, ACB has taken on the administration and awarding of the scholarship program that AFB has had for a number of years. We took it on as part of our broader scholarship program. And many of their scholarships have been combined with our existing scholarships in like areas of study and eligibility criteria. And we've now been able to increase the dollar amounts we have been able to award. Scholarship amounts this year range from $2,000 to $7,500, with the average range between $4,500 and $5,000. And this year, we're excited to be awarding $92,300 in scholarships to 21 hardworking and very deserving students. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this year, Facebook, who is sponsoring our scholarship mentoring program and workshops and activities for our scholarship attendees. And as you will soon see, this year, we're introducing our students in a little different manner, and you'll be meeting them throughout the week instead of all at one time. And now let's meet our first group of 2020 scholarship winners.
Well, congratulations again. Thank you for joining me this afternoon, and good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
I am pleased to announce the Paulette Rux Scholarship winner, Maureen Hayden from College Station, Texas. Congratulations, Maureen.
Thank you.
Could you please share where will you be attending college in the fall? And what is your primary field of interest?
In the fall, I'll be attending Texas A&M University as a fourth-year marine biology graduate student in the interdisciplinary program. And I'll be studying plastic pollution on Texas beaches.
And that, I know that you have a passion for your area of study. Can you share with us why you have chosen this field of study and what in your past led to this decision?
Yeah, so I grew up in the landlocked state of Arizona. So being a desert girl, who would think I would fall in love with the ocean? But my dad was in the Navy, and both my mom and my dad grew up near water. My mom near the Chesapeake Bay and my dad in Florida. So I grew up hearing about their adventures near the water all the time. And then I had an aunt who gave me an opportunity to go visit the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, and I had an opportunity to do an animal encounter with Winter the dolphin, who has a prosthetic tail, and like get to see the behind the scenes working of how an aquarium functions. And that sealed the deal for me, and I knew at that point I wanted to pursue marine biology as a career.
Oh, wonderful, and a newfound love of water too, right?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful. Well, and very environmentally conscious area of study as well. And that was something that we need as well. Could you please share with us your greatest accomplishment and why?
I would say my greatest accomplishment to date would be completing my master's in biology at Walla Walla University, not only as an academic, but also in terms of personal growth and learning about myself. A master's program was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do as far as carrying out a full project for 2 years. And that requires a lot of teamwork, a lot of hours. And for me, in my case, it required a lot of great nights, but I learned a lot about myself, how I work with other people, that I learned some new problem solving skills. And not only that, but I got to do it all in the beautiful state of Washington and in the beautiful Pacific Northwest.
Wonderful. Your environmental studies, your dedication to the area, the discipline, and your great work as a student are all assets that we find that make us proud to award you an ACB scholarship this year. Congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Katrina. My name is Sheila Young. I am a member of the ACB Scholarship Subcommittee for Social Work, Teaching, and Rehabilitation. And I am speaking with Katrina Santarelli from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. She is the recipient of a William Corey Scholarship. So congratulations, Katrina.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell everybody where you will be attending school in the fall and what your primary studies will be?
Yep. So in the fall, I'll be attending Salus University, which is located in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, and I will be obtaining my master's in vision rehabilitation therapy.
That's a great field. We need them.
Yes.
So why, at this time in your life, did you choose this field, and what made you go into this study?
So when I was 16, I actually had vision rehabilitation services. The VRT came to my house. We worked on public transit in my area and cooking. And I didn't know it at the time how valuable that experience was going to be to me and how it was going to shape me into the professional that I am now. At the end of that year, I actually attended a summer program for high school students and their transition into post-secondary education. And when I was there, I actually learned more about what VRT is and the services that are provided. I actually worked there later on as well in 2018. And from that, I really fell in love with the profession, and I just knew I wanted to help people that were just like me and give back to the community that's been there for me my whole life.
Well, that's wonderful. And finally, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment to this point in your life?
Right. So I'm a recent graduate from Waukegan University, and I'm the first in my family to actually receive a high honors. So I graduated with magna cum laude, which is the second highest honors. And I'm also the first in my family to go for my master's. So I would say pretty excited and about that experience.
And you should be very proud of that. Congratulations. And congratulations on receiving the scholarship. And we wish you the best of luck in your future education. So good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you. I am speaking with Kevin Cohen from Hewitt, New York. He is a recipient of the James Olson Memorial Scholarship. So congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell everyone where you will be attending school in the fall and what your primary field of study will be?
Sure. So I'm going to be attending Harper College of Arts and Sciences at Binghamton University in Binghamton, New York. And my primary field of study is economics on the pre-law track.
Wow. Why, at this time, have you chosen this field of study, and what led you to picking this field?
So I guess each part separately, the economics and then the pre-law. First, for economics, actually this year I've taken my first economics class, AP Macroeconomics, and I really enjoyed learning about how the economy functions on a macro level, and looking at each individual facet of the economy and international trade. So that really interested me. And I've also been involved with the stock market club in my school as president. So that's also been an experience that contributed to my interest in economics. On the pre-law side, I've always been interested in law from middle school, doing debate. And in high school, leading my mock trial team this year has really been a great experience and kind of fostered my love for law and litigation.
And Kevin, what would you consider your greatest accomplishment so far in your very young life?
I would say that my greatest accomplishment so far has been the research that I conducted last year on the mobility-related issues affecting the visually impaired and blind population. So by the end of the year, I ended up writing about a 30-page paper on 2 different technologies that could help mitigate some of the mobility-related issues in these populations. So anxiety, trips and falls, and so on. And in this process, I enhanced my communication skills with professionals in the field, orientation and mobility specialists, various organizations like Blind Square, who I was in contact with, and research in general. And I found this experience to be very rewarding for myself, as I was able to not just deal with my disability, but actually kind of do some research into the issues that affect more than myself, but the entire visually impaired and blind population, and try to make some difference.
Well, we would love it if you would share some of that paper with our Braille Forum at some point in the future, because that would be very interesting to read. So congratulations, Kevin, on your scholarship, and good luck in your education. Good afternoon. This is Sheila Young. I am a member of the Social Work, Rehab, and Teaching Subcommittee of the American Council of the Blind Scholarship Committee. And I am delighted to be talking with Stephen Knipp, who is from Billingham, Washington, but he is the recipient of an ACB Oregon scholarship this year. So Stephen, would you like to tell everyone where you're planning to attend school in the fall and what your field of study will be?
Yeah, good question. So I am continuing my major in communication studies. That is will be my second year at Portland State University.
And why have you chosen this field, and what in your life led up to you choosing this field?
Well, it all goes back to after I got out of high school. I went through a bunch of work programs and went through the process of trying to get employed, and I just went through a bunch of phases that a lot of blind people go through, where employers they don't want to take a chance, and I just about had it after a couple of years of not having success, and I knew in the back of my mind after working as a residential life counselor through the Youth Employment Solution Program, I knew at that point that I wanted to do something in the field of working with people that are visually impaired, just because, I can relate to them. And so when I started school in 2015 at Whatcom Community College, I took a communication course with a wonderful woman, Colleen McGough, and she was the one who inspired me to go after this career. She went out of her way to just make sure I succeeded. I took 3 different courses with her, general communication, interpersonal, and public speaking. And she, again, she was just a huge supporter. And then the other reason why I chose this field is because I went through a learning contract where I got to basically form my own class, and I got to do some informational interviews, and these were with people that are current orientation and mobility specialists. And one of my questions was, what did you get your major in for this field? And they either said communication studies or psychology.
And what would you, now Stephen, what would you consider to be your greatest accomplishment so far in your life?
That's a very tough question, because I can name a few, but
well, we've only got a couple of minutes, so
yeah. I would have to say graduating from Whatcom with honors, and just confirming to everybody that people like me can succeed. It was just a dream come true, and to be where I'm at today, going after my career, just extremely honored. And I really feel like that's the biggest accomplishment. I wish I had more time to go into more detail.
Yeah, well, it is an accomplishment, Stephen. At any time, anyone can finish college or even a semester in college, they should feel proud, but you should feel especially proud. So thank you for joining me this afternoon, and congratulations again, and good luck in your studies.
Thank you so much.
An incredible set of presentations. And Stephen, good for you. So my first thought is, I am so jealous, Stephen, of your voice. I thought I was mostly jealous of Tony Stevens' voice, but now that I've heard yours, I'm not sure. That's a toss-up. I'm gonna have to think about that. And then I'll admit to this audience that in hearing the scholarship presentation for the James Olson Award, those of us who remember Jim remember him fondly, and I had the privilege of attending his send-off ceremony in, oh gosh, when was that? Was it 2004, 2005? I don't remember. It was in Minnesota. It was really cold. But suffice it to say that ACB is a family, and I think those of you who have been part of it for years understand what I'm talking about. If you don't or don't yet have that feeling, I would encourage you to reach out to your local chapters and your state affiliates, and to those special interest affiliates that most appeal to you, because ACB is not just an organization. It's not just another nonprofit. It's an organization that creates a true community, and I think we've heard that today. With that, we are going to take a break, ladies and gentlemen. This would be that time during the normal convention season when you would get up and go rushing off to the elevator and push that button repeatedly and stumble over people with their dog guides and tails wagging away and those canes flailing about. I miss that so much. Can you tell how much I miss that? With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are on break until 11:45 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
All right, we are on break, and one of the things that I wasn't prepared to do this morning was get some files ready, so let me load the proper items in a playlist, and I can play some sponsor interviews. Let me just find what I need here. Let's see, I hope you all have enjoyed the first half of the general session, and wonderful scholarship winners. And okay, let me copy some of these files. And yeah, just been grooving along this morning. I didn't expect that I'd have to stream, but I'm happy to do it. And it was interesting because I was not at my computer, and I get a call, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me get there. Let me open up all the right stuff, and here we are. So all in all, quite well the way it worked out. And I realize I am not as good of a fill-in speaker as others on on ACB radio. That's why I work in the background. But we're going to keep everything going here just a moment, just loading the right things. And I believe everybody comes back at 12 p.m., so I don't want to overstay my welcome speaking or my break. And all right, let me make sure my volume is set properly. And get over here into this playlist. And okay, here's some promos I can play. And let's see. Okay, Rick is letting me know when we start up again, so that's good. Thank you, Rick. And oh, I just got another text here. Let me play some convention promos, and I'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tyson Ernst, and I'm sitting here today with Zach Bastian from Verizon. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you particularly do for Verizon, and how you came to be with Verizon.
Certainly. Well, thanks so much, Tyson, for the opportunity to talk with the membership of ACB today. I have been lead on accessibility partnerships at Verizon for 4 years now. It's been a great 4 years with the company. Truly a pleasure to work with this community. I'm especially excited to talk to ACB because the staff and leadership of ACB was some of my first entry into the disability community, meeting with people like Eric Bridges, Anthony Stevens, Clark Rockfall. That was my introduction to ACB, and I find it to be such a great organization with a membership that's brilliant and very well connected and interested in technology and great advocates. So it's just such a pleasure to always get the opportunity to talk with ACB at any time.
There's a couple different platforms that Verizon has, Verizon Wireless and Verizon Media. What's the differences? Compare and contrast.
The main difference is that Verizon encompasses our wireless and wired Fios business, whereas Verizon Media is where things like Yahoo Finance, TechCrunch, Yahoo Sports, HuffPost, things like that live. So Verizon Media is kind of more of our internet-oriented businesses, while Verizon does the network side of the house.
How are the accessibility features of that, such as you have on-demand services?
In fact, just to take your lead there, Verizon Media has a truly superb accessibility mandate within their organization. And what you'll find is that if you were to join Verizon Media as an employee, you'd receive a presentation on accessibility your first day with the company. So it really is a team that has a lot of credibility and power within the organization. Now, I was mentioning several different apps. Verizon Media, for example, produces a lot of video. All that video is captioned. For any app that is within the Verizon Media family, when it enters the App Store, you can be confident that it's going to be screen reader compatible. So there are enormous services.
Join us for the virtual ACB Annual Convention from July 3rd through July 10th on ACB Radio and on Zoom. Start date Tuesday, July 7th, 3 p.m. to 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Transportation Forum Law. The Transportation Task Force and Environmental Access Committee have observed a weird phenomenon on this planet. They roll up the sidewalks at night, and we're going to talk about it. Pedestrian access, inner city buses and trains, and small towns are all up for discussion. By the way, they also close spaceports early. This is Starfleet Command, to mobility and beyond. Over and out.
If you're a ham radio operator, plan to attend the virtual meeting of ACB Radio Amateurs at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, July 9th. Handyham Coordinator Lucinda Moody, AB8WF, will tell us about the Handyham services for people who are blind. If becoming an amateur radio operator or jump-starting your involvement in the hobby after a period of inactivity is on your bucket list, place this meeting on your calendar. Thursday, July 9th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
The ACB auction is the highlight of the conference and convention for many of us. But what will they do this year? Never fear, ACB's got it covered. Just grab your favorite beverages and snacks and settle into your easy chair. That's right, it's the Easy Chair Auction, Tuesday, July 7th, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. You can attend via Zoom or listen on ACB Radio, wherever your easy chair happens to be. So get ready to support ACB and stay tuned for more details about auction items and how to bid. It's the ACB Easy Chair Auction, part of the 2020 ACB Virtual Conference and Convention, right here on ACB Radio.
On Monday, July 6th at 1:30, Library Users of America will hold its first session. Karen Kenninger, Director of the National Library Service, will be there for a more extended discussion of the issues she raised during the general session and to answer your questions. At 3 o'clock, in One Book, One ACB, we will be discussing the book Flying Blind by Lou Brigante, Brigante. Read it on Bard in advance if you can. On Wednesday, May 8th, Erin Jones will tell us more about her life as a talking book narrator at 1:30, and at 3 o'clock, we will look at the exciting new features in Bard and Bard Express from the National Library Service. You'll join us for all our sessions, won't you?
ACB has given us a virtual path to the future. Now the Victor Reader Trek gives us the ability to virtually take any path we want. Learn about the new virtual maps that let you go anywhere without leaving your chair. We'll also have some tips and tricks for getting the most out of all the functions of this multifaceted device. Join us Wednesday, July 8th from 6 till 7:15 p.m. Eastern on ACB Radio or Zoom and discover all of the features of the Victor Reader Trek from Humanware.
And we're back.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Reichert here, and such a pleasure to be with you on a lovely, what is today? Monday. It's Monday all day, and it's 11:45, I think. And given that, we know that the next item on our agenda has to do with the Vernon Henley Award, and I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague Penny Reeder from Montgomery Village, Maryland, with the Board of Publications to set it all up for us. Penny, over to you.
Hi, I'm Penny Reeder. I'm a member of the Board of Publications for ACB, and I'm also the president of Guide Dog Users Incorporated, and it's an honor for me to present this award. The award is the Vernon Henley Award. It's one of our oldest awards in ACB. Mr. Henley was the first chair of the Board of Publications, and he was very wise because he knew if we were ever going to make progress in the world, we needed to change people's minds about our lack of capability. And so he created this media award for people and organizations that present us in a positive light. And this year's award winner does exactly that. It's like the best possible choice for Mr. Henley's award. This is an award for Dana Nachman and Mary Chalenza, who are the producers of the Pick of the Litter docudrama. And they also worked on the original Pick of the Litter movie. And if you don't know what that is, we encourage you to go to Disney Plus and watch it because it's fabulous. It's a movie. The first installment depicted how Guide Dogs for the Blind, which is a guide dog school in California, narrowed down the choice among puppies who were all born together. And some of them made it through the process and became guide dogs, and others did not quite make it, and they became other things. And then they followed up the movie with a docudrama series on Disney Plus. And the series showed the world how GDB instructs people, blind people, how to learn to work with the guide dogs, and through the whole training process, and even through the process of coming home and beginning to work in your real life with a guide dog. And we love everything about these two series. We love the movie, we love the series because they depict blind people in the real world. So we love puppies because we're Guide Dog Users Incorporated, and we love GDB because we have lots of GDB graduates. And we love Claire, who is featured in the docudrama series. Claire works for ACB, and they even came to ACB and filmed Claire working in the ACB environment. So it showed people who watched the movie and the series that were normal people. They showed us working and using screen readers and walking with our dogs and beginning to build that bond that's so important. So we are so happy to present this award to Mary and Dana, and we really appreciate what you did. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for this great honor. We are really thrilled. Working on Pick of the Litter, both the film and the series for Disney Plus, was such a thrill. And the thing that I loved most about it was, of course, the fluffy and cuddly dogs, but even more so than that, was the amazing people that we got to meet, the people who ended up with the dogs, the clients of Guide Dogs for the Blind, and just to learn about their lives. And they taught me all about orientation and mobility, which I didn't know anything about, and I thought that was really fascinating, and just how they're partners with these dogs, and how as a team, the human canine connection that we all feel so much with our pets is taken to the thousandth degree with this relationship between guide dogs and their users. And so I love that, and I love the resilience of all the people that I met through Guide Dogs for the Blind, and how they navigate their lives day in and day out, with dogs and without dogs. And so I learned a lot as a person just by becoming friendly with them, and I hope to continue those friendships and partnerships in the future. And I loved working with Mary, and she'll tell what resonated with her.
Thanks, Dana. I think that being on this project was one of the great joys of my career. It was so genuinely touching to meet the people, the animals, and see how wonderful they all are, and how generous they are of spirit, and how courageous they are in every step of their lives. And I think what some people think is, oh, the guide dog gives them independence. No, what we learned is that they're already independent. The guide dog is just a way for them to live an even fuller life. And to me, that was one of those things that is magic. And Chris Kenninger, who's the CEO of Guide Dogs for the Blind, talks about the magic of the matching process. And that was really lovely to watch, because when you get to see a person and a dog meet and form this team and navigate life together like that, that's something really special. So it was really such a great learning experience. Feel very blessed to have been a part of it. And, this is a really lovely honor. And so we're so grateful. And with our partner, Don, as well, like it was a really wonderful project to work on.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well, you never know with these virtual presentations when the ball will get handed back to you. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And congratulations to our award winners. And thank you so much, Penny, for your presentation. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you a session that we do annually at the American Council of the Blind. And some of you know me mostly because of my chairing the resolutions process for the American Council of the Blind. And I only bring that up because not only do we always love to have an update from the leadership of the National Library Service, but if you don't think that resolutions mean anything in the American Council of the Blind, then you don't know what you're talking about. Because many moons ago, we decided that, by resolution, we were going to hear from the leadership of the Library of Congress's National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled. And it is my privilege this morning, still this morning, well, noon, okay, to introduce Karen Kenninger, who is the director of NLS. And look forward, Karen, to hearing your remarks. And I know we've got already a number of questions for you. If you do, friends, have questions for Karen, be sure to email them to Janet Dickelman, who is the taskmaster on all things questions. And you can do that at questions at acb.org. I think we have a number of them already in the queue, so I don't want to advertise it too much. But Karen, over to you with your presentation, and we'll take some questions. And whatever you do, don't hang up until I tell you to, because we have a surprise for you.
Good morning, ACB. It is an absolute pleasure for me to be here yet again for the, I think, 8th time to speak to you about our library. Our library that brings us books and magazines so that we can keep up with our sighted peers and all of us can read. So I'm going to give you a quick overview and then we'll take some questions, and we will have more in-depth Q&A this afternoon at the Library Users of America meeting. So be sure to tune in for that as well. So one of the new things that I'm really excited about that just came out is the ability to subscribe to series on Bard. Now, those of you who are Bard users probably know, I hope you do, that you can subscribe to magazines so that when a magazine new issue comes out, it will be put on your wish list. And now there is a subscription for series. So I know that we all love our series, and that is also available on Bard as of a few weeks ago. So check it out. At the beginning of this fiscal year, which would have been October 1, NLS changed its name. We used to be the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped. That terminology got me a whole lot of complaints, the physically handicapped part. So we have changed it to the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled as of last October, in order to bring the language up to date and to acknowledge that print disabilities are out there and that we need to be able to serve them. In December, we got some new legislation that gave us several opportunities, and we're just now making those happening. One of those opportunities is additional funding for our e-reader project, which we'll talk about in a second. And another is authority to do cross-border exchange with through the Marrakech Treaty. And another one conforms our definitions to the definitions in the Copyright Act and that was passed a year before that. And the main one is the eligibility definition. That definition is now it is a person who is blind, a person who has a visual or perceptual disability, or physical disability. So perceptual disability is the new language in there. And one of the things that we are planning to do is to change the certification process for people who have this perceptual reading disability so that they can sign up more easily. It's been a kind of a high bar for them in the past because they had to get a doctor's certificate. But as this fall, we intend to get to change that so that they have the same options that everyone else who's eligible does. That we expect them to primarily be Bard users and not talking about machine users, which means we have to make sure that Bard can handle that. So we're working on a big expansion of Bard capabilities, moving it to the cloud and doing the things that we'll need to double or triple is the ability to serve people. We got additional funding for that as well. So that was a good thing. Marrakech Exchange is coming, but it isn't just here yet. One of the things that our law requires is that we publish new regulations. And those regulations should be published by the end of this month, I'm told, which will give us all the legal backing that we need to actually participate fully in Marrakech. So when are we going to actually see the results of that? It's going to be yet a little while we organize the arrangements that we will have to exchange with various libraries. We are going to be working, and we have already been working with the Global Book Service, which is part of the World Intellectual Property Organization's project to help with international exchange. We're going to be doing a pilot later this summer to implement what we think is going to be a workable paradigm, and we'll have to see how that goes. One thing that you've probably seen if you are in one of our 37 libraries who are doing it is duplication on demand, where you're getting cartridges that are specially customized for you with the books that you want, and there may be up to 10 books on that cartridge, or in some cases more, I think. And we fix the talking book machine so that you can just roll from one book on to the next one if you want to. You can also still use the bookshelf feature if you prefer that. But we think this will be a good thing, both for the libraries, it makes it a lot easier, and for you because it makes all the books that are on Bard that aren't on cartridges available to you on cartridge as well as the ones that you've been getting already. So we're excited about that. The Braille e-reader project is a pilot that is a project that I have been working toward ever since I came to Washington, actually. And it is now bearing fruit. We got additional funding for it this year, thanks to all the support that we got from you. And we have units about to be delivered, 2,000 of them, that will be distributed to initially 4 pilot libraries. We'll be asking the members who get the talking book, the Braille e-readers, to report back on the usability of them and their experience with them, so that we can make sure that they are optimal for people. We have 2 vendors for this project, and the first ones to be delivered are going to be the humanware ones. There are some from ZoomX that will be coming later in the fall, and they will go to another set of libraries. The first set of libraries at this moment in time is Iowa, New Jersey, Kentucky, and Utah. We're assuming they'll all be able to work on the pilot. The COVID has kind of gotten in the way of that, so there might be a little bit of a change. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, these are coming, and I'm really very excited about that. ACB staff, or designated ACB members, will also get early pilot units to test out and give us feedback on as well. Excuse me. Next generation digital talking book service is another thing that we've been working on for quite some time, and we are still working on it. We do have a prototype of a lockdown cell phone that has a voice user interface, so that you can talk to the device and it will get you the books that you're asking for. That project isn't complete yet, but it is definitely making progress, and I'm excited about that. I'm not sure how long it will take to get these things in place, but we're also working on smart speaker implementation as well. Bard Mobile is getting updated, and so is Bard Express. I think there's going to be a presentation on that on Wednesday with more details. I'll just mention that there are updates that have been worked on recently. And the last thing that I want to mention before we go to questions, and I'm going to keep this short since we have a lot of questions, is that we are looking at a new location. We are very hopeful that we will get a new location. We've been hopeful for some time, but the reason that this matters is that our new location will be, if we have our way about it, and are very, very fortunate, that it will be on Capitol Hill. What we're hoping for is a facility where we will be able to have not only our offices and our labs and our studios, but we will also have a visitor center that would be intended for both sighted and blind people, including a touch museum that would have artworks, architectural models, and other sorts of things of interest that you'd be able to come, if you come to Washington, you'd be able to come and visit and look at. So that's also on the table, and we are very hopeful that we will be able to get that project moved along as well. The COVID has had major effects on our network libraries as well as on NLS, and I just want to mention that our network libraries have been doing absolutely everything they can to get books out. And I know that in some states it's been very difficult because they've completely closed the buildings down and people have to work from home, so there's no mail service and there's no real ability to do that. They have to follow their state requirements. They're they have to put quarantine things. They have to go all through a lot of these things in order to do whatever they can manage to do. They are trying to answer the phones. They're using interlibrary loan to try to get books out, things that they can do from home. There are also some sharing across state lines so that one library is helping out another one. Some of them are still open and are recording and doing a lot of that. But actually at this time, if you're a Bard user, you're in luck. And if you're not a Bard user, if you can get somebody to help you with Bard, if you're not getting the service from your network library right now, if you can get somebody to help you with Bard, you can have access to the whole collection. So NLS staff has been in the same boat as our network libraries. Our building's been closed since the first part of April. We just opened it up last week, actually. Everybody's been working from home who could, and the people who couldn't work from home couldn't work. But we're back to some extent. Our music services are back in, they're able to start circulating music again for those of you who are music people. Speaking of music, we have some new it's given us a chance to actually get into some of our collections. The Smithsonian Folkways collection is something we've been adding slowly to the catalog, and this time has allowed us to add a bunch more of those Smithsonian Folkways products. And if you're interested in traditional music, you might want to check those out because they're well done and pretty interesting. Books production has slowed down. You have noticed that if you're a Bard watcher, because our producers went dark for a while, and of course that impacted production. Our studio's been closed, and several of our producers were for a while as well. They're ramping up now, and the number of books is starting to pick up. I will say that we have managed over 2,500 new books in 2020 in spite of all of this. And with the help of both our new books from the network, and magazines, we've added over 4,600 books or titles to Bard in this fiscal year so far. So we're actually doing pretty well there, but more to come. Most of our magazines are back up and running. If you're a magazine subscriber, you should be getting your magazines. The one that we're not getting, that some of you might be missing, is The Economist. The Economist is done in our studio, and our studio's closed, so we're not able to do that just yet, but it's coming soon. As soon as we can start opening a little bit more, the studio's next on the list. So that's my very brief update of the things going on at NLS, and I would be very happy to take questions at this point, Janet.
Okay, so Janet, before we do that, I know Debbie Trevino is already on the line. Deb, I'll hand it over to you in just a second, but Karen, I have a question for you, and that has to do with the definition of who's covered. So you mentioned this in your remarks about perceptual disability versus sensory disabilities, and there's a certain amount of theology here. It can get a little theoretical and not so practical, but can you just talk a little bit about sort of the scope of who NLS is supposed to be serving these days, and how we're breaking down barriers to make sure that folks beyond, I think you and me, whose only disability is vision impairment, are part of the mix?
This has always been a difficult question, and I think that's why back in the 70s they said the doctor had to figure it out. We're not going to ask doctors to figure it out anymore, but we are going to ask for school psychologists and reading specialists and types like that to actually certify that a person who is not blind or visually impaired, that they would be eligible for the program. Yeah. What does it mean, perceptual disability? I think that what people think of primarily is dyslexia and that sort of disability. We are not going to codify that in our regulations. We're not going to say if it's dyslexia, you're in, if it's something else, you're out. We're leaving that, I think we're going to just leave it to the certifying authorities. Our experience with certifying authorities is that they take things very seriously, and that in general they have done a very creditable job. So that's where we landed on it, actually.
And then in terms of the numbers, I mean, maybe you don't have the precise numbers, but in terms of how many folks are actually subscribed to the program who are visually impaired or may have other disabilities?
Right now, with what we track is one disability at a time. So about 45% of the people we serve at this point are people who are visually impaired, and about 40% are people who are legally blind. And then we serve about 5 or 6% of people who are reading disabled, and we have, or privileged is the term, I guess, and we have about that many who are physically disabled for other reasons. And there's some we don't know for sure. So that's kind of how it breaks down right now. We anticipate that over time there will be a lot more people with print disabilities that sign up, but I believe it's going to take some time for that to occur.
All right, excellent. And my last question, and I'll leave you alone. You've been a good, you've been nice to put up with my cross-examination, and that is,
I'll take as many questions as you got.
People love to cite the NLS data for purposes of assessing how many Braille readers there are. Can you comment just briefly on that?
I can. We had about something around 30,000 active Braille readers last year. That means people who actually borrowed Braille and used it either from hard copy or off a BARD. We did another way of looking at the data and found that we have about 41,000 people who are registered with the network libraries who have indicated that they are Braille readers. So there's those two numbers are what I got.
Karen, thank you so much. We have questions, but before we do that, I want to turn the program over to Deb Trevino for a special presentation. Deb, over to you.
Hi, it's my distinct and great pleasure to be able to present the Robert Gray Award to Karen Kenninger. This award goes to someone for improving library services, and Lord knows she's done that over the years. She's been faithful and loyal and dependable and always brings us a good report of what's going on with NLS. And it could also be for someone who has made technical and communication device improvements. And so, of course, with BARD and BARD Express and with all the different players and things coming out, I'm looking forward to that Braille, e-Braille thing. I have my own orbit, so I mean, I'm already using that. Wow. Anyway, we are so grateful to be able to present this award to Karen Kenninger, and I present on behalf of myself, the awards committee, and my co-chair, Debbie. Wait a minute, I'll ask your name just a second. Rosier. You know, Deb, it's not you, it's me. Anyway, on behalf of the committee, we are gratefully pleased to present this award.
Karen, congratulations. Thank you so much. And as I said earlier today, you know, this is a virtual convention, so there are people who are trying to get up out of their easy chairs and their soft couches, and we're all giving you a standing ovation. So congratulations. Nobody deserves it better.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. This has been a lifelong passion of mine, and I just am happy to be able to be where I can make some impact. So thank you so much.
I mean, I remember being, I remember being, you know, just a young lad, and hearing names like Kurt Silke, who, you know, I mean, these are names that are etched into our minds and our hearts, who've been around forever and a day, and he was kind of a living legend. And Karen, thank you so much for your leadership in this program. You are, because of the seat that you sit in, you know that there's a certain amount of blindness politics out there, and so there you go. Good for you. But you've persevered, and I think most assuredly taken the program into the 21st century. So thank you for that. Janet, over to you for questions.
All right, we do have a few. First question, Karen, is from Jean Mann from New York, and she wants to know that since Reader's Digest is no longer going to be put in Braille from APH, if you're thinking of recording Reader's Digest.
I haven't checked into that recently, but I will. I'll make a note right now, and I will get back to you on that.
And then I had two questions pretty similar from David Mandel from Berkeley, California. Oh. And he wanted to know about preserving and converting talking books from the 1930s through 70s to NLS. So preserving books and converting them. And Christy, while you're at it, Christy Sykes from Louisville wanted to know about if there's plans for editing out things such as Side 1, Toad, and 2 out of the book.
Let's see. With regard to the old records, which are the 1934 to 1970 style talking books, we do have an archive of them, and we have looked at the possibility of converting them. We haven't initiated that yet. It's a completely different process, obviously, than the process that we went through. Excuse me, to convert about 40,000 cassette books. So it's something that's on the wish list. It's not a top priority right now, but it's something we have not lost track of. With regard to editing out side one, tone one, and all that stuff, they're supposed to get edited out when they do the conversions, but sometimes they miss them. So hopefully they'll get better at that as we go along.
Okay. And do we have time for one more question, Mark?
Of course. Yes, ma'am.
And then, because I'm not looking at the program, so I'm not sure where we are. All right. Robin Frost from Havertown, Pennsylvania wanted to know about managing the 5 slots that each library user has for BARD, for adding and removing mobile devices, and wanting to know if that might be something that individuals could control on their own versus having to contact the library.
I can look at that as well. We're looking at making BARD easier to use in several ways, and we're going to be actually completely rewriting BARD in the next couple of years in order to meet our expanded needs. And certainly that's something that we want to be able to have more user control over. So I'll make a list or put that on the list of things that we definitely want to do.
So Karen, this is Mark, and because they gave me an open microphone, that was their first mistake. So I loved growing up listening to Chaim Potok's The Chosen and The Promise, read by Lan Janney, who was just a phenomenal reader, and a historic figure in terms of 1950s, 60s, 70s broadcasting. I don't think those have been converted over. I mean, who if I had my little wish list of things that I wanted to maybe get converted over, to whom can I lodge those appeals?
Send them to me, and I will.
Good for you. Good job.
Send them to me.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get them where they need to go.
I remember getting those records, those 33 1/3 records in the mail, and
oh yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, they were Christmas every time it came in the mail. My mailman wasn't always real fond of me, but he got over it.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Karen, thank you so much, and congratulations again on the Vernon Henley Award.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, following the order of the day, we are on to our next presentation. At least once a convention, we get to hear from a renowned international guest. And with any luck, if the Dixie cups and the fishing line have been pulled tightly enough, we are connected with our next guest, who I understand, unlike some of our presentations that have been recorded, this one is live and in person. I hope this is true. Still, we are pleased and privileged to be joined by Martine Abel Williamson, who is the treasurer of the World Blind Union from Auckland, New Zealand. I think Auckland's about 40 miles west of Neptune, if memory serves. And I think, Martine, you're at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm on the Space Coast here in Florida, so you may very well be, God knows. But in any case, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations for getting up so early with us. I hope you have something that props your eyelids open at this time of the day, wherever you are. And talk to us about what's going on with this crazy intergalactic thing called the World Blind Union, and also what you do 9 to 5, or whatever time it is people do things in New Zealand. Over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. You're lovely.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's good morning from, it's around about 4:20 in the morning. I really wanted to meet up with you in person, and this is the closest I was going to get. And so thank you for inviting me. It was so exciting to get an invitation. pre-COVID-19, I got the invitation and I was like, yes, I'm going to go to the States again, because last year, this time, about exactly a year ago, I was invited to present at the NFB convention, and it was just amazing to attend something in person where I could meet with so many people. And then I thought, okay, fine, great, this time I'm going to meet with the ACB. And I was just on the verge of booking my ticket, sorting that out with Janet, your great Janet, that's doing the organization, when COVID-19 set in. And I thought, well, maybe next time, but still, this is really, and then I didn't want to miss the opportunity of presenting live in case there were any questions. So if I don't talk too long, there'll be time for questions. If I talk too long, then there will not be time for questions. But thanks again. I was in the fortunate opportunity to have met online with Dan, Spoon, and Kim. I'm on a audio description related advisory group with him. And I also know that ACB is very involved with World Blind Union related matters. So even though we're not together in person, I know there's so many collaborative things happening. I don't know whether you can hear very well from my accent, because it's a bit mixed as we're speaking. I was born in Namibia, which is the old Southwest Africa. And actually from the word go, blindness really influenced the path of my life, fortunately or unfortunately. When I was 6 months old, my parents, I was a single mother, my single mum realized that I was ignoring her, and she probably thought, well, it's too early to be a teenager, I can't ignore her quite yet, she better get me to the doctor. And I was diagnosed with my Leber's congenital amaurosis, my eye condition, so being blind. And at the time she was told that there is no opportunity for mainstream or special schooling in Namibia, and that I'll need to go to South Africa for that. So just after I was 1 year old, she packed us up, moved to South Africa. And even though she got a job there, I was still more than 1,000 kilometers away from the special school for the blind. So at the age of 5, I got sent to School for the Blind for 13 years. You know, looking back, and many people regret special school opportunities because they were not with their family and friends. It's a bit of a double-edged sword to me, because I met some of the most amazing friends at special school. So although I'm very much in favor of inclusive and integrated schooling, one can't change your own path always, and I had actually a great time, apart from missing out on family time. By the time I went to University of Pretoria afterwards, I was closer to home, and I tried to make up for good time, and I studied in the area of psychology and education. I really wanted to be a vet to start with, because I remember my first dream was to be a vet. I could build animals out of Lego. And I think my mum must have been very worried at the time, because she was never a person to say, no, you can't do this and you shouldn't do that and don't go and play outside and things like that. And I thought maybe she had a bit of issues with me wanting to become a vet. And but she never told me that I can't become a vet. So I remember I was about 7 years old when I was at school holiday. I was home, and I had to get up early to go to work with her, because she couldn't leave me on my own at home. So she would cart me off with her to her workplace, where she was a medical secretary, and I would sit in the filing room and listen to the radio and listen to cassettes and play with Lego and whatever. And this one morning I was like a bit grumpy because I had to get up early, and it was during my school holiday. And she said to me, what are you going to do one day when the farmers call you and you've got to go and help with animals giving birth and awesome such. And I said, no, I don't want to become a vet anymore. I think I want to do something that I can get up later in the morning. So fortunately for her and the rest of the world probably, that was the end of my wishes to become a vet. So she never had to break my aspirations or my dreams. She probably just had to wait for me to come to my senses. And that is how I will always remember her. She's here with us in New Zealand, but she has got stage 2 dementia, and unfortunately, although I'd love to share all my current adventures with her, she doesn't remember things very well. So it is tinged with sadness when I talk about all the opportunities that she allowed me to endeavor, and now it's very hard with her not being able to sort of hopefully see the fruits of her labor, really. So I moved to New Zealand in the mid-1990s. I was the only one left in my family. My brother-in-law and sister moved to New Zealand for teaching positions. And it was very interesting. So my accent is really a mixture of Afrikaans and Kiwi and New Zealand and whatever. So coming to New Zealand was a bit hard as a disabled woman because, again, there was a gap on my CV. I struggled to get a job. But long story short, I started to work in a blindness agency where I was teaching Braille and computers. And before too long, I became involved with local government, and I became an accessibility advisor. And this is the work I'm very much involved in today. At World Blind Union level, because at local government, as many of you will know, that it's got a lot to do with access to the environment and transport, and how footpaths, anything from footpath, or as you guys call it, sidewalk accessibility, to trains and buses. So for my sins, I back in the disability area after working in the mainstream area, and I really enjoy it because I think the more of us that work in this area, the bigger difference we can make. And so around about 2007, New Zealand had an opportunity to travel to China for our World Blind Union Asia Pacific Midterm Regional Assembly. And our formalized World Blind Union representative suddenly became unavailable. And me sticking up my hand for something before I know really what is implied, said, oh, you know, I come from other countries and I have traveled the world a little bit, and I'm happy to represent us in China. And people said fine. And then I realized I'm still sitting on with a South African visa. It's very difficult to travel, and that actually led me to get finally my New Zealand citizenship and to get a New Zealand passport, because I thought if a country trusts me to represent them, the least I can probably do is travel on their passport. And so it is in 2007 that my linking with the World Blind Union started. And I haven't looked back really. I was involved with Asia Pacific region. I'm still the coordinator for the UN advocacy group, which is to do with human rights instruments such as the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, CEDAW, or I think you guys say CEDAW, which is the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination of End of Discrimination Against All Women and Girls. So, and then in 2012 or 13, I got asked to become involved in to lead the global work on access to the environment and transport, because New Zealand was one of the first countries to develop shared and accessible and safe shared spaces. And of course, that was a huge issue for many people because they've started to implement it in Europe, in many countries, and it proved to be very dangerous because, again, it was a concept that there was no initial engagement with blind stakeholders. So it was very dangerous for people to venture in the same space where vehicles would. So in New Zealand, well, I don't think we've got it perfect, but we've got very well designed and very specific requirements around shared spaces, so that by the time you do cross an area where vehicles can move as well, that you know you can be as safe as possible. So for my son, someone at World Blind level, union level, find that out, and I was contacted and started the lead work about access to the environment and transport. And then in 2016, at our General Assembly in Orlando, where I did meet with some people from ACB, I was voted in as treasurer. So I'm on the a table officer and on the global board of World Blind Union. And it is really totally amazing to be able to 4 or 5 times a year travel and meet up with colleagues and talk about our 4-year strategic plan and really look at the bigger picture. And you know, it's, for me, it's great to go to other developed countries because we learn so much from each other, but it's also awesome for me to go to developing countries where we often get asked to help liaise with national and central governments about inclusive education or access to the environment. And that is opportunities that is just so valuable to me. So because New Zealand is so far away from everybody except Australia and the Pacific Islands, it's often required for me just to travel on my own, because can you imagine the cost if I took a guide? So I have landed in interesting situations. I know the first time I went to Myanmar, that used to be Burma, not only do you land there on your own as a blind person, but people don't always speak English, and you can't just expect people to speak English, and you can't just, like any sighted tourist, point and sign and get your way around. You just have to deal with it. And again, what I always find of those countries are people are so extraordinarily generous and kind. Even though when I was in Myanmar I fell ill, we still don't know whether it was giardia or some food poisoning or whatever. And you know, you do think when you end up in hospital, being on death's door, you do reflect on your life. And I still wouldn't look back. People have said to me, oh, so you think you should not have traveled to a country such as Myanmar? And I'm like, no, I think we made a difference there, and I just have to be careful. We all just have to be very careful. Which get me on to COVID-19. Kim has said for me to talk a little bit about what happened with COVID-19 here in New Zealand. And I've just returned from the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi in February, mid-February. We went there I presented about smart cities. Many of you may know it as the opportunity to link technology with the physical environment. You know, and I talked about how we link smart speakers such as Amazon Alexa, Google Home, all sorts of mobile phone apps, with finding out information about the environment instead of just dealing with the physical environment. So it was awesome traveling there. Hardly got back to New Zealand in the beginning of March when there was a great talk about COVID-19. And I didn't really take it very seriously because I was supposed to go to the Dominican Republic on the 23rd of March to go to the Southern American or Latin American World Blind Union Regional Assembly, and I was looking so much forward to it. So I had my ticket bought, I had my visa, everything sorted. I was supposed to travel through, because you travel through the States to get to the Dominican Republic. I had my ESTA visa waiver, everything sorted, ready to travel in transit through the States, when it started to look very clear that that will not be possible. So I was asked to put my travels on hold, and on midnight on the 24th of March, New Zealand went into total lockdown. And I think for many of us, it was like a once in a lifetime experience. My husband's workstation was moved to home. I was here at home, and suddenly we went from really having a normal life to not having a normal life. I suppose it forced us to become quite tech savvy, because I've never had so many WebEx and Zoom meetings in my life. So fortunately, I think the angst around online connectivity got a bit dispelled through through this. One's got to take the positive with the negative. And we also realized at the time, because it is a time of reflection, that you know, how self-sustainable you need to be in your own home. Do you have your entertainment? Do you have books? Do you have can you take your dogs for a walk? We've got 2 guide dogs between us. We were fortunate in the situation that we were allowed to go for short walks, which I think is really helpful. But dogs actually felt very spoiled, because I think they just thought for 3 months we were at home and they got all the attention. So I didn't think they were much affected by COVID-19, whereas humans were. Suddenly we had to do a lot of online shopping. Fortunately, in New Zealand, it's a bit of a quirky situation, and maybe in the States, I know you've got paratransit as an example, but we got a system called total mobility, where we can travel half price with taxis because of our disability and the additional cost of taxis. And for the duration until 30 June, disabled people were able to travel free by taxis. So that was because it was acknowledged that we could not, once we went out of lockdown, manage social and physical distancing properly on buses and trains. I mean, can you imagine your dog would find a seat, but it'll probably be next to someone, or if you find someone with a cane, that you have to, you almost have to find someone before you can social distance. So that was really an amazing opportunity for us to still go out shopping and to medical appointments. And once the lockdown was ended at the beginning of June, allowed to go and visit friends and go to restaurants again. So I think it's a huge learning curve, and I think we're still experiencing the fallout. We're very fortunate in New Zealand that we exist out of a couple of islands, so we could literally lock down and reopen, and we just hope for the best, because although we've got no community transition at the moment, we have started to let citizens back into the country, and they are now being quarantined because some of them's got COVID-19. So clearly it's hard for them to be distanced from the rest of us here in New Zealand. We're only just over 5 million people, so I think it's a bit felt that, you know, it's a bit close to home of a few people starting to get it. But I want to extend my best wishes and my condolences with all of you in the States, because I realize that for a large country with so many different borders and states and state governments and different policies, that it is very hard to get on top of a very debilitating condition, and people feel the economy and people's livelihoods are being impacted. So back to World Blind Union matters. Briefly, what we're focusing on the moment to do with access to the environment and transport is existing issues, such as, of course, access to shared spaces, quiet vehicles. We all know the dangers around trying to cross the road, and if you can't hear that there is a car coming, you can actually have the best of hearing and still place yourself in a dangerous situation. So we work with one of your American colleagues, Frederick Schroeder. He's doing our representation at UN level about that. We also don't just want to focus on current existing problems, because the reality is that in many countries, footpaths, buses, trains, sidewalks, it will always be an issue. So we also focus on future opportunities, such as self-driving and autonomous vehicles, because the reality is, before not too long, we will have the opportunity as blind people to access self-driving vehicles. But in order for that to happen, we will need to have an accessible machine-human interface, so that when we're in a vehicle, apart from knowing where everything is, it will know where we need to go to, or if we need to disrupt the journey, how do we converse with the vehicle. nowadays all the technology is touch screen pads, and we all know with whiteware and other technology how hard that is. So we're working with vehicle manufacturers and state legislators around that, because we don't want to be the 258 million blind people across the world. We don't want to lose out. This can be life-changing for most of us. Also, something new in February, under my guidance, my work group's guidance, we at World Blind Union adopted an e-scooter and micro mobility device policy, because clearly with e-scooters and all sorts of devices on sidewalks, it is dangerous because, again, you can't hear them. People park them. They lie all over the crosswalks. I know in Europe, South America, Australia, New Zealand, those are real issues, are those e-scooters. Again, we can have all the mobility independent skills we need to and want to, but if we stumble across barriers such as e-scooters, or if we can't hear them and they disrupt us, it can really be life-threatening. So it's really interesting times. So yes, we have to do with the good old favorite buses and trains matters, but we also try to focus on the future so that we're not always playing in catch-up mode, but so that we are, you know, proactive and working with industry and vehicles and vehicle companies. And another final area, of course, is international travel with guide dogs. I've traveled last year to NFB, so it was 12 hours from Auckland to LA with my dog, and then just under a couple of hours to Las Vegas. I don't know who was the happiest to get to Las Vegas, me to rest, or the dog. That is, you know. So I had to starve her for 24 hours before I got on the plane, and once I got to LA, I could give her a snack, and there was an airside dog relief area, which was really great. So, you know, we're working, and it was really hard. It cost me in the vicinity of 2,000 New Zealand dollars for her to travel, and it's mostly because of paperwork, not even because of a lot of medication and vaccinations coming back from the States. So thank you again for letting me present to you. I want to end with a proverb, and it's a Maori proverb. Don't worry, I'll say it in English. And because I believe proverbs can really sum up the situation we're in. And COVID-19 has really forced us to think, without face-to-face and physical contact, how can we still be linked with one another? And this is an ancient proverb, because when Maori tribes traveled from Melanesia and Polynesia to New Zealand, and they only had the stars in their kayaks and canoes, they probably never thought they will meet up with one another again. So, and the proverb is, in spite of the distance, it's the horizon that connects us. And I'd like to leave us with that, because it is the horizon that connects us. And hopefully before not too long, we'll be able to catch up face to face and in person, not be able to spend some proper time with you all. Again, thank you for this opportunity.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Martine. That's so sweet and profound. And thank you. And I know, as I said a couple of times earlier today, people are, if only in their minds, getting up out of their lazy boys and getting up out of their far too comfortable couches and giving you a round of applause. So thank you so much for that. Those are sweet thoughts. Janet, I know we probably have a couple of questions, but my question first, Martine, to you is this. I know that the World Blind Union meets every 4 years. I think this summer was supposed to be the Quadrennium in Madrid. And I know a number of, I was not expected to go, but a number of folks who were expected to go were really looking forward to that. And then of course we have this COVID situation. I think you touched on this just a tiny bit, but just spend a moment talking about what the hot topics would have been this summer and what you think the hot topics in the World Blind Union are these days.
Yes, thank you. We had to make the call to postpone it for a year, so hopefully that'll give more people the opportunity to save up. And hopefully by May next year, we'll be able to meet up in Madrid. We really hope for the best. You know, some of the hot topics I've touched on is to do with modern technology, mobile apps, you know, how we deal with the smart cities, how we deal with smart speakers and finding out information. Before you leave your home, you can ask how long it will be to travel somewhere, where are local health places, where are local bus stops, etc. I've touched on self-driving and autonomous connected vehicles. We still deal, unfortunately, with the elite of us, with less than 5% of blind people actually having education opportunities, and with 65% of working age blind people being unemployed. So although we are in the most amazing situation technology-wise, we need to look after our neighbors and people around us and really trying to influence things.
So, no, Martine, what that means is that you're saying that all of us who are listening to this right now, we're among the elite.
I am, unfortunately. I am. But the first time someone told me this, I felt a bit bad, and then I thought afterwards, we are. But now we've got a responsibility because of that.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
You know, and you know, so we, but hopefully COVID-19 also taught us that more people can work from home, more people can do, because I know there's so many people that say, oh, I can't work because I can't travel and my employer needs me to travel, and hopefully there's been the realization that with technology and in a difficult physical environment, we can still, there's a lot of remote connectedness. So we have to take the best of this situation.
And then one last question for me, and then Jen, I'll toss the ball over to you, and that is, Martine, I mean, so as you know, in America these days, we're really struggling with a lot of challenges. And ACB has gone on the record that Black Lives Matter. A number of
awesome.
Organizations have gone on the record saying that that's really critical for us. And of course, in the World Blind Union, I personally have never attended any of the international meetings, but certainly as someone who's a policy nerd and who's followed the WBU over the years, you know, of course, this has been a concern to me and to all of us who look at those of us who are in positions of privilege. And I would just be interested in your sort of reflections on what you're seeing, or what folks from outside of our continental United States or outside of our 50 US, what y'all are seeing, and from the blindness and vision impairment perspective, any
I must
reflections
say
you have?
that, look, the media shows us, we all know the media, the media shows us the how can I say, the things that is what people want to see, and it's often it's often gory, and it's often, you know, if it's not about Donald Trump tweeting, it's usually Donald Trump tweeting. But fortunately or unfortunately, you know, whether it's Donald Trump tweeting or not, we have been inundated with the news about George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, and of course it spiraled to other countries in the world too. So I think, which is great, because I think we all need to be in solidarity, whatever the causes we find. You know, we need to stand together, and you know, so I think it is very hard to see people in the situation, and of course thinking, should they go on a protest, and will they maybe infect someone, or won't they infect someone, and will they place themselves in danger? So our thoughts are really with you, but our thoughts are also reflecting on our own behavior, because nothing you know, the saying goes, if my neighbor's house is on fire, it's my problem too. So, you know, so I can't say, oh, I'm happy here in Auckland, and we didn't have a similar situation quite yet, or we had in the past, but not in the last 2 weeks. Something like that. I mean, we had the Christchurch mosque bombing just over a year ago, and we couldn't celebrate or commemorate people's survival after a year because we told people they can't get together physically, which was very hard because people wanted to get together physically. So yeah, no, we all need to reflect, and I think we all just have to think, be kind, and our thoughts go out to one another.
Well, and especially given where you physically live geographically, right? It's not a USA versus whatever problem or internal USA problem. This is a globally speaking North and South problem. I mean, and I think the World Blind Union as an organization reflects that. Janet, over to you. How are we doing with questions?
Well, we do have I have one question from Pam Coffey, who said she didn't catch at the beginning of your information where you were born. She said she knew where you got your education, where you live now.
Oh, right. I was born in Namibia. It used to be called Southwest Africa. It used to be a German colonized little place next to South Africa. And of course, after the Second World War, South Africa had control of it. And then in about 1989, they declared independence and they changed their name to Namibia because of the Namib Desert. The Namib Desert is one of the 3 biggest deserts in the world. So yes, Namibia, which sounds very exotic and far away.
And then,
are you familiar, Martine, with the skit from the 1970s, which Dan Spoon will be grateful I'm not going to imitate right now, but from the Saturday Night Live, and the comedian is Garrett Morris, and he talks about he does this wonderful South African / German accent in talking about how he needs to recruit folks to donate their fondue sets for this South African cut. Yeah.
No, look, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm a bit young. I was out on that.
Oh, that's it. So everybody who's listening online,
I would need to hear that.
You should Google Garrett Morris and fondue sets in Namibia. And,
okay.
I guarantee you, it's lovely. It's lovely.
I will. I really will. Thank you for that.
All right. Janet, next.
And well, time-wise, Mark, I don't know. I was going to ask about a great production that was in New Zealand that I've been hearing about of Romeo and Juliet that was an audio description. I don't know if you have just a minute or two to talk about that. That would be great.
A couple of years ago, we had an audio described company, a blind guy and his sighted wife starting up an audio described company, and they decided to do ballet for the first time and they thought they'll give us a master class first, because by the time you describe ballet moves, it's moved on to the next 7 things, you know. So for the first time, we had Romeo and Juliet performed as a ballet. Blind people were invited to go beforehand. We had a look at some props and at the actors and at each other, and we looked at how would you plie and how would you point, and it was all very interesting. You can imagine all the hands-on fun that we had and all the terms, and so that by the time it started, we could understand what is happening, not just the story, but almost visualize what's happening. And then when COVID set in, again, we had on the radio and TV these ballets, and of course, then we had to think, how are we going to let people still value that? And the same agency, company, Audio Described Aotearoa, then devised a system through a private YouTube and Facebook channels that they could either live record or pre-record. And then when we listen in, we can hear the audio described track at the same time. And I believe some of you, we had it, we didn't have a closed source, we had it, we opened the e-borders because we wanted to share it with the world, how we can have access to ballet ourselves so that we can enjoy the same entertainment that others are. So we were very fortunate in being able to bring that to the rest of the world, really.
That's so nice. Well, Martine, thank you so much. It's lovely to hear your voice, and what did you say at the beginning? It's a mix of oh gosh, Marie and there were 2 or 3 other things in the recipe that made
Yeah,
up
no,
your voice.
it's Kiwi, it's New Zealand, it's South African. Yeah,
No, it's lovely.
it's very mixed.
Yes. So there's so many people who I know are enjoying listening to you. And thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it, and I know we all do. So God bless and thank you. And go back to sleep. It's time to go back to bed.
Oh, I'm awake now. Okay, thank you, everybody.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye. All right, friends. Well, it's that time in the program where we are done with our official presentations, but I know we have these lovely things called door announcements, as well as door prizes, as well as announcements. Janet, I think I'm supposed to turn it over to you first for door prizes.
You can. I thought it was the other way around, but.
Well, that's all right. We're just going to be a little flexible.
All right. I've got some great door prizes here, and I've got $25 from the North Dakota Association for the Blind, and that is going to Judy Davis of North Carolina. I also have a tablet bag from the Mini Mall donated by Kentucky. A tablet bag is a bag that will carry your tablet, and I can read a little description of it if you'd like me to take
no, I'm teasing.
Time, but it's a great small bag that's perfect for your iPad and note taker.
I don't know if it was for the 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments.
No,
that's what I
no,
didn't know.
and that is going to Nathan Ruggles of Pennsylvania.
Nathan Ruggles? What an incredible name. How do you get names like that? I don't have a name like that. Nathan Ruggles. That's awesome.
And Kimberly Kirkus from New Jersey is has a gift that was donated from Florida Council of the Blind, $50 in cold hard cash.
Hard cash.
Can I do one more?
Oh, that was good. Listen to that. Yeah,
and I'll do one more. I've got $50 from my state of Minnesota, and that is going to Leola Campbell of Louisiana.
Woo-hoo! Yeah.
And I think I better let us get to announcements, and then if you have time for a second, we can do another door prize.
We'll probably do another way. Minnesota down to Louisiana. That sounds like that's a cultural whiplash if there ever was one. And I was just thinking that if we were doing door prizes and we were asking David Trott to do the door prizes, it would probably be spelled D-O-U-G-H-E-R, door prizes. But of course, what do I know? I'm just a Yankee boy. David Trott, over to you for announcements, sir.
Good morning. And I noticed that you guys can call my name for announcements, but you don't know it when the door prizes come up. And also, I do realize that Mark can't talk plain, but, he's doing the best he can.
I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, you are.
Yes,
good
sir.
Afternoon from a place I never thought I'd be able to say this to ACB, but good afternoon from Talladega, Alabama. We're the home of the great Talladega 500. I guess they're still out there. We hope they leave. But anyway, you've heard some great programming this morning. You've had some great programming since Friday going on. And we'd like to offer you the opportunity to help with funding this programming and the other great programs of ACB.
Yes, sir.
If you heard Cindy Hollis this morning, you heard the great work she's doing. And all these programs take funding, and we have some good funding coming in, but we also like to engage our membership in helping with that funding as well. So I may get in trouble for my first announcement, but it does help ACB, and it is kind of a promotion for the company, but they are helping ACB this year. HIMS is raffling off a Q Braille XL Braille display for $20 a chance, and all the proceeds from those chances will go to the American Council of the Blind. Also, if you buy a Q Braille, you will automatically be entered, and if you win, 100% of your purchase price will be refunded. And that's my advertisement for today.
Good job.
Okay. Tomorrow night, I'm in my easy chair getting ready for the easy chair auction. And if you registered, you can join us by Zoom. You'll be sent Zoom information. And if not, you can listen to us live on ACB Radio. And we look forward to you attending the auction. You can go to the ACB convention page and get a list of the auction items. Leslie and team have done a great job this year of putting together some auction items. And when you talk to her, also tell her how much you enjoyed the ACB appetizer auction. It raised a couple of $1,000s this year, and it's new and kind of unique. Of course, everything's unique this year.
Isn't that the truth?
All right.
That's right.
The Braille Forum raffle is coming up. It's doing great this year. You still have the opportunity to come on board. You can buy a raffle ticket for $50, or you can join with up to 4 of your friends, and the price will be divided out equally. The prizes are $500, $1,000, and of course, $5,000 for you or your affiliate. You know, if your affiliate buys one and they win, we've had individual winners and affiliate winners. This has been a great fundraiser over the years, but we want to top it this year. We've got a special conference. We want a special Braille Forum raffle. So come and join us. And last but not least today.
Yes, sir.
3, 2, 1. That's right, folks. 3, 2, 1. That's the goal of the MMS program. This year, we want to get to 321 participants. It's easy for you to participate and doesn't cost very much. For as little as $10 a month, you can join the MMS, and you can pick an affiliate of your choice, either state or special interest, to receive half of that donation. It is processed by the American Council of the Blind's office in Minneapolis, so you don't have to worry about dividing it up. We do all that for you. We process your credit card, and we're taking care of you. Remember, 3, 2, 1. Oh, and by the way, each day I've got a special prize for everybody, or actually the committee does, but I want to take credit for it. Each day we'll give away a pretty good size gift card. And at the end of the convention, actually late next month, after everything has been processed, we will announce our grand prize winner of a new iPhone. So today's winner, I'm going to mess this up, I'm sure. Suzanne Erb of Pennsylvania won a $100 gift card. And Mark, you know, you and I are kind of the guys that like to get a chuckle out of everybody. Are you finding it's a little more difficult this year?
Oh yeah, there's no audience reaction, man. It's just, I don't know.
Well, at least I've got you.
You poor
Thank you, everybody. And y'all have a great
who knows?
day.
You know, you're like, that's it. You only got me. That's terrible. That's
And David, this is Dan. I just want to remind everybody that they can also email either George Holliday or Gene Mann through a special email address we've got set up for this week to make their donation to the monthly monetary support program, MMS. And that email address is askacbmms@gmail.com. So askacbmms@gmail.com.
So Janet, how are we doing on time? What's your Braille watch say?
Mark, excuse me just
go
a
ahead,
minute. I got one more thing.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I had
Go
just
ahead.
actually wrote down and skipped over it. I was looking at you and it kind of
That's
threw
all
me.
right.
The phone number, if you want to purchase a Braille Forum raffle ticket or get information from MMS, is 612-332-3242. Again, that's 612-332-3242. And by the way, if I have the wrong phone number, I'm sure Janet will correct me. Thank you,
Well,
folks.
either that or it's going off to some, calling the Caribbean to God knows
Well,
what.
that is the Minneapolis number.
Oh, that's there you go.
And David and Mark, I also wanted to just mention that one final announcement. We had a wonderful walking up a storm virtually yesterday evening before the opening session, but it's not too late to still donate to the ACB Brenda Dillon Memorial Walk.